There's a reason this found you right now, in this moment, when you're exhausted from trying and tired of hoping and wondering if anything will ever actually change. If you're seeing this, you're about to hit the turning point. Not because I'm predicting your future, because you're standing in the exact space where transformation becomes inevitable. That moment right before the shift, when everything feels heaviest, when you're so worn down that you can't pretend anymore, when you've run out of excuses and energy and patience for your own delays. This is the moment. Not tomorrow's moment, not next week's awakening. Right here, right now. This message found you because something inside you is about to refuse, and that refusal is the hinge your entire life has been waiting to turn on. Let me tell you what's actually happening. You've been asking the universe for signs, for clarity, for proof that things can be different. And every time you asked for something small, something safe, something that fit inside the life you've been tolerating, the answer was no. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because what's coming for you is bigger than what you've been asking for. You've been praying for a better job when you're being prepared to build something that doesn't exist yet. You've been asking for a healthier relationship when you're being shown how to finally choose yourself first. You've been hoping for relief when what's actually forming is complete transformation. The small things you wanted weren't denied. They were redirected. Because settling for less than you're capable of would have been the cruelest answer the universe could give. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. The reason you're at the turning point isn't because you've finally done everything right. It's because you finally hit the wall hard enough that you can't keep running in the same direction. You're here because you're exhausted, because you're done, because some part of you looked at your life recently and said something you've never said with this level of finality before. I refuse. I refuse to keep living like this. I refuse to keep accepting what I've been accepting. I refuse to keep making excuses for people who don't show up. I refuse to keep playing small because it makes others comfortable. I refuse to spend another year in the same patterns, the same pain, the same stagnant version of a life I know I'm capable of outgrowing. That refusal, that's not anger. That's not desperation. That's clarity finally breaking through the fog. And once you refuse, once you draw that line, everything on the other side of it starts organizing itself differently. You're not a done deal. Read that again. You're not a done deal. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your parents did or didn't do. It doesn't matter what your siblings chose or what patterns your family has been repeating for generations. It doesn't matter what you did last year, last month, yesterday. You're not bound by your history. You're not defined by your worst moments. You're not disqualified by your failures. You're not limited by the environment you grew up in or the beliefs that were handed to you before you were old enough to question them. Your life is not a closed book. It's not a done deal. And the moment you truly believe that, the moment you stop seeing yourself as a product of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as someone capable of creating new ones, everything shifts. Let me give you a way to see this. There's a moment in every seed's life when it cracks open underground. To anything watching from above, it looks like death. The shell splits. The structure breaks. Everything that seed has been holding on to dissolves. And if the seed could think, it would probably believe it's ending. But that cracking, that's not death. That's birth. That's the only way the life inside can finally break through. You can't grow into a tree while you're still holding the shape of a seed. You have to let the old form shatter so the new one can emerge. And right now, you're underground, you're cracking, and it feels like you're falling apart, but you're not falling apart. You're breaking open, and what's about to grow from this moment is something you couldn't have become if you'd stayed comfortable, stayed safe, stayed in the version of yourself that everyone recognized. The turning point isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally refusing to stay someone small. It's about looking at the cycles you've been repeating and saying, this ends with me. Looking at the relationships that drain you and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. Looking at the habits that numb you and saying, I deserve better than this. Looking at the dreams you've been postponing and saying, if not now, when? The turning point is the moment you stop negotiating with the life you've been tolerating and start building the life you've been avoiding because it required too much change, too much courage, too much willingness to disappoint people who've gotten comfortable with your smallness. And here's what nobody tells you about breaking cycles. It doesn't require you to have a perfect plan. It doesn't require you to see the whole path. It just requires you to take responsibility for what happens next, not responsibility for what was done to you, not responsibility for how others treated you or what they failed to give you, but responsibility for what you do with it. Responsibility for whether you let it define you or refine you. Responsibility for whether you pass the pain forward or transform it into purpose. The moment you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the author of what comes next, the universe stops treating you like someone who needs to be saved and starts treating you like someone who's ready to build. You don't need massive change to start. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tomorrow morning. You just need to do one thing differently. Leave your room when you've been hiding. Go for a walk when you've been sitting still. Watch something that educates you instead of numbing you. Move your body for 10 minutes instead of scrolling for an hour. Say no to the person who always hears yes. Say yes to the opportunity that scares you. Eat with intention instead of compulsion. Speak kindly to yourself instead of tearing yourself down. One different choice. That's all it takes to start. Because small actions in a new direction compound faster than you think. 1 becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. And 6 months from now, you won't recognize the person you were when you started. Not because you became perfect, but because you became consistent. Because you chose differently. Because you refused to let another year pass while you stayed the same. Now here's what I need you to do right now. If something in this message landed, if you felt that recognition that you're standing at the turning point, that you're done with the old version, that you're ready to refuse what you've been accepting, go to the comments and type 3 words. I refuse this. That's it. No explanation. Just that declaration. Because when you make a private refusal public, when you claim it out loud where others can witness it, something shifts in your nervous system. You've drawn a line. You've made it real. And your subconscious registers that this isn't just another moment of inspiration that fades by morning. This is a commitment, a turning point. The moment you stopped being who you were and started becoming who you're meant to be. And if you know someone who's stuck in cycles they can't seem to break, someone who's been tolerating what's killing them, someone who needs permission to refuse Share this with them. Ask them to declare it too. I refuse this. Let that be the line that everything changes on. Subscribe if you want to stay connected to this work. And if supporting through Super Thanks feels right, it directly fuels more content like this. But real talk, the fact that you're here, watching, listening, I don't take that for granted. Thank you. Here's what happens after the turning point. You become the cycle breaker, not just for yourself, for everyone who comes after you. Your children won't inherit the patterns you're breaking. Your friends will see what's possible when someone finally chooses themselves. Your future self will look back at this moment and recognize it as the day everything shifted. Not because life became easy, but because you became someone who refused to stay stuck. You stopped being a victim and became a warrior. Not someone who fights against life, someone who fights for it. Someone who refuses to waste it. Someone who knows their story isn't over just because the first chapters were hard. And that warrior. That's who you've always been underneath all the doubt and fear and conditioning. That's who's been waiting for you to get tired enough of your own excuses to finally show up. You didn't need permission. You didn't need perfect conditions. You didn't need more time or more resources or more confidence. You just needed to refuse to crack open, to let the old form die so the new one could grow. You've been that seed underground long enough. You've adapted to the darkness long enough. You've convinced yourself that staying safe in the shell was better than risking the break. But the break is here. You feel it. That's why this message found you. That's why you're still reading. That's why something in you is nodding along, saying, yes, this is it. This is the moment. So let me ask you something before this moment passes. What are you refusing? What version of your life are you finally done accepting? What pattern ends with you? What cycle breaks here? Because this is your turning point. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you feel ready. Not when everyone supports you. Right now. While the seed is cracking. While the old form is dissolving. While you're still underground but finally breaking through. The life you've been asking for isn't waiting for you to become worthy of it. It's waiting for you to refuse the one you've been settling for. And once you refuse, once you commit, once you declare that this will not be your story anymore, everything accelerates. The doors you needed open. The people you're meant to meet appear. The clarity you've been chasing finds you. Not because the universe suddenly decided you were ready, but because you finally decided you were done waiting. You're not a victim. You're not a done deal. You're not limited by where you came from or what you've been through. You're a seed that's cracking open. And what grows from this moment, from this refusal, from this turning point is going to be something nobody saw coming, including you. So refuse. Break open. Become the cycle breaker. Become the warrior. Become the proof that your past doesn't determine your future. Because if you don't, if you let this moment pass like all the others, if you go back to negotiating with the life you're tolerating, then what was all this pain for? What was the breaking for if nothing grows from it? You've been underground long enough. It's time to break through.